the biggest thing, like we're stepping into a bigger frame, but we still have to own our frame. And one of the biggest things in for a man in general is to have a productive and valuable frame, because you can have a frame and just be a dick and have no results in your life, and you can own that shit, but no one wants to, like,
Yeah.
it's a shitty frame. Like, upgrade your frame. But the biggest thing though that I guess that man would be doing right is he's at least owning his frame. And as a man, it is our job as leaders to have a frame, develop that frame to be the best possible frame it can be, and own that shit. And people either walk into your frame or you push them to the side, and you don't acknowledge it. And it's something that, you know, I was always really good at in high school, right? And then I joined the Marine Corps, and they kind of broke my frame, but rebuilt it a little bit different. And
Hmm.
but then it was a really strong, like it was a different frame, you know what I mean? And
Right.
I gave no one time or attention in it. But then after I got out and came back in the civilian world, I lost that frame. And I always called it my mojo, but my frame, because I lost like the identity. I no longer had my brothers there, no longer had all these other alpha males around, and all of us were like constantly beating up on each other to see who was the most alpha. Like it was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Well, and you weren't
And
as mission driven as you may have been in the military either.
yeah, lost the
You know?
mission. And
Yeah.
and then that, and that's again, so owning your frame as a man is like so key and so powerful. And unfortunately, so many men now have become so beta that they're just allowing anyone, like, have their and they're like walking into everyone's frame. It's almost like for so many people, the government and the news has the frame, and they're just like walking into whatever they say like a zombies, instead of having their own frame, standing for something, right? If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything,
Yeah.
right? And it does come back to that mission, and understanding that, your identity is not the things that you've done. It's nothing from your past. It's not material things. It's nothing. Like, your identity should be like your characteristics, your values, what you stand for, your frame. And so I think that was like the biggest and hardest thing for me, is after getting, no longer pursuing football, in the Marine Corps, no longer having that, and then I lost myself because I had my identity attached to, I'm a Marine. That's why when
Yeah.
people say, oh, once a Marine, always a Marine, I'm like, no, I was a
Yeah.
Marine. Like, that's not me anymore. I
Yeah.
have those tendencies, I have those qualities,
Yeah.
but it's not who I am. I'm no longer attaching it. And then, when the first business built it great, was lost everything, watched the toys disappear, watched the country club life disappear, and I watched all these things start to disappear. My identity was shattered. I was like, holy crap, I thought I was doing the work. It's interesting how the ego will play tricks on you when you start this spiritual work, and you think you're going so good and everything's gravy, and then the moment you lose something outside of yourself, you like feel shattered. You're like, holy shit, I missed the entire point. I need to like reevaluate
Yeah.
this. What do you
Yeah.
got on this?
I'm really grateful for the Earth because I feel like the Earth provides us, this 3D reality provides us an opportunity to fuck up quite a bit
Yeah.
and get another shot, and um, you're absolutely right. That at the end of the day, this is either you allowing your attention to be sold and bought by other people, or it's you're buying and selling your own attention. You're choosing what's going on and how you're interpreting what's going on. I think that's one of the biggest things that fucks us up is, because the truth is, if you want to, you can find anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to, you can find anything. And that's, I think, the really cool hack here about the brain, about focus, is that it doesn't matter if you don't have a lot of evidence to support what you want to create or what you want to embody. If you just start, your brain will find more evidence to support and more foundation to build to keep you in that space. And I honestly, dude, I resonate, right? When I broke up with my ex, it wasn't the country club, but we had a fucking $750,000 house, 6,000 square feet, 5 acres of land, a pool, a movie theater, a home
Yeah.
gym, whole
Yeah.
nine yards, right? The Tesla. And what's really interesting is I built an identity around that.
Yeah.
That also was almost like a Venn, not a Venn diagram, yeah, a Venn diagram. And the other half of this was reality hacker. And in the middle, kind of everything was. So it was like reality hacker, entrepreneur stuff, sky tech. It was the possessions, the materials, and in the middle, I was finding myself, right?
Right.
And then as soon as that falls apart, I was like, what the fuck did I do wrong? Right? Where did I go wrong? Because that's what I was asking myself when I got together in my current relationship and things started taking a turn for the opposite. I was like, okay, eventually leaving up to the former business partner leaving the company,
Yeah.
it was a downward spiral. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? And it's been such a great opportunity for me that I'm still integrating to really step back and recognize that regardless, I'm able to stand here and choose my frame. I'm able to choose how I'm interpreting what is going on. And on the subject of the ego tricking you, you're absolutely right, because I didn't last year, the last 6 months, meeting my dad for the first time, meeting my sister, my family,
Yeah.
all these things combined with Dave leaving, you and us getting together, everything that went on, right? First off, it's important that we congratulate ourselves, and the fact that I didn't go batshit crazy after everything going on is fantastic. But right on the other side of that, it was amazing to watch how I went into survival mode and was interpreting everything through the lens of lack and fear, and allowing that to drive my decision, my conversations.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been something that's been really great between us. I've been able to sit and reflect and recognize when lack is driving a conversation that we have
Yeah.
about something. And it's just so powerful, because it's not that those things aren't true per se, it's that you don't have to allow them to control you.
Right.
That is where the power is. It's not in denial of what is happening, it's in your choice of interpretation. And so I'm grateful for the relationships that we have that give us the space and the grace to have another chance, to take another swing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And when you talk about that, it makes me reflect on what is true partnerships and what is a true friendship, right? Like I could tell, like you and I, we have a true friendship. Like we can have these conversations and we know we're in business together. Like we have to have obviously tough
Yeah.
conversations, right? And it's Ronnie and I, we're the exact same way. We can, when you're coming up with ideas or having a conversation with me, depending on whatever tone I feel, I can go, wait a minute, that's my tone. Let's ask a question to clarify. And then we'll ask another question like, hey, where are you coming from right now? Like, are you coming and you allowing it and me allowing those questions to come so we can ask ourselves, wait a minute, am I coming at this from a place of lack or abundance, right? Because how we do one thing affects everything.
Yeah.
And that's why, for me, when people talk about, you got to save. Yeah, you can save, but if you're saving out of scarcity,
You'll never save enough.
You'll never save enough, and you'll never be open to opportunity because you're in a scarcity mindset, right?
Yeah.
So how you do one thing affects everything. And for all the men listening on here, creating a frame, like this is something it took me a while to get back to, and you could chime in please on this, on creating your frame. It comes from allowing yourself to completely detach from anything material and outcome. Like for me, it got to a point where it's like, all right, number one, how do I want to be treated? Number two, how do I want to treat others? Number three, what do I want to accomplish in this world? Number four, like, what do I truly want? And that is now my frame. And anything that I have emotional with anybody else, right? If they are not in like my top priorities, it's just a simple, you're cut off. Like I'm not tolerating this, or hey, clarify that so you don't get cut off. Like, right. And for men, you can't build a legacy and you can't build something of significance when you have this like attachment to it. You just have to build and see who comes. Like, it's like Noah's Ark. That was kind of like the right thing, right? Build it, they will come, right? I think it was Noah's Ark or something like
dreams.
Feel it, right? Well, I thought it was something with Noah's Ark, right?
You're right. You're right.
Like they built, like everyone like thought he was a fool and they didn't get on the boat, right? Or something like that.
But when he built it, the animals did come, dude.
The animals came. So Field of Dreams, but build it, they'll come. Like essentially, it's all the exact same thing, but neither of them. Like building Noah's Ark, he didn't give a shit what people were thinking of him. He's like, this is my mission, this is my frame. You're either coming with me or you're not. Field of Dreams, same thing. It's like I'm building this thing. You're either coming. Like, so for every man out there, if you can release some type of attachment you have. Like this could even be conversations or how you feel about like being alone. Like as a man, if you can find a place where you are so damn comfortable with being alone and you're okay, like if everyone left you right now and you're like, I wouldn't be comfortable with that, that is a beautiful thing because it allows you to start asking yourself, why am I not comfortable being alone? Like,
Yeah.
what is it that I need from someone else to make me feel whole? And that, for everyone listening here, that is your greatest direction to go to work on you. Like, I need this from my spouse because I feel unloved. Okay, why are you not the greatest example of love and have it for yourself? I need this from XYZ. That is where you're coming in lack for yourself. And as we were talking about earlier, right? Your inner world always or your outer world always reflects your inner world. So always ask yourself these questions, and then always doing the things that are hard. Like I do an ice shower every morning, okay? And I love winter because it makes it even colder. This morning, you should have heard little Nick's voice, Mike.
Yeah.
Oh, every morning. Every morning. It's like trying to like get my 8-year-old son to brush his teeth.
Yeah.
The mind just was going like, we're doing like, I don't want to do this. No, maybe take a warm shower first and then we'll end on cold. And coming up with all of these crazy excuses on why. And finally, like for men out there, you have control of your thoughts when you understand, or not your thoughts, of the thoughts. When you understand your thoughts are not your thoughts, they're just simply a program, typically programmed around comfort or negativity, right? And so understanding, when I'm sitting there, I gave this thought space, and I'm like, you're being a little bitch right now. Like, really? Like, this is what we're doing. And just because you don't want to do it, we're doing it. And remember, you talked about this on our last podcast. The moment that you have an emotional experience and you choose to do something different than you normally would, is the moment that you reprogram your central nervous system and reprogram the ego. And that's essentially what every morning for me is, because every morning it's a battle within myself. And when I do that, I won one of the hardest battles to start the day with myself.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing more important than your relationship with yourself. Absolutely. And so, yeah, man, I've definitely explored the cold shower situation. I definitely, I go back and forth.
Explored it.
But,
Christopher Columbus over here.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's really interesting, especially, with everything I've got going on with the test, with all these different things.
Yeah.
It's amazing to watch what comes up and what, and how what happens externally reflects quite accurately the things that are going on inside. And so, yeah, man, I find myself every single day grateful for grace. I think that, you need to do your best to set up your frame, because the reality is if you're not setting up your frame, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Absolutely. What do you have on that? Like, so for me, developing frame was letting go of attachment, asking myself questions on things that I felt I needed externally to feel whole.
Yeah.
Like, what else do you have for, someone listening here that's like, man, I really don't have a frame. I keep falling in other people's frame. I feel like I lost my mojo. If you find yourself saying, I don't have my mojo,
Yeah.
I lost my mojo, that means you lost your frame. So what other tips do you have for someone that can develop a better or stronger frame? Because I've always noticed you do have a pretty strong frame.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you've done?
I think the frame is always going to be elevated, or the opposite of elevated, based upon your conscious awareness of your why. I think that for a lot of people, they don't have a why. And I notice when I don't have a why, I don't get anything done. But when I have a why, I feel unstoppable, especially if the why is bigger than myself. And so my frame, if I'm being completely transparent with you, every single day I'm waking up and I'm doing my best immediately to feel as though I already am what I want to be.
Yeah.
Explore the stories and the thoughts and most importantly, the sensations associated with that. And then after I'm kind of experiencing that, I navigate over to my why, because I
Yeah.
want to inject that state of consciousness into the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing, so that that can propel me as quickly as possible to the reality that I want to experience, right? So my frame here is I'm either living as though I am what I want to be, or I'm not. And if I'm
Hmm.
not, I am subjecting myself to unnecessary unpleasantries,
Yeah.
right? That is the thing about not choosing your frame. You know, it's not that the devil made you do it, and it's not that God wants to teach you a lesson.
Right.
It's that you didn't choose your fucking frame.
Ex-
Because you didn't choose your frame, you subjected yourself to somebody else's. And until you find your frame, which is true for most people, what do we say in our trainings, right? Most people live the same 6 months over and over and over for
yeah.
40 years
And then
because
die.
they're not choosing their frame,
Right.
because they're not choosing to go deep and understand why they do what they do, how their habits set them up for what they accomplish throughout the day,
Yeah.
how that inner dialogue relates to the circumstances that they find themselves in, right? And so, man, no, I appreciate that. Your frame is everything. And the truth is, I believe when it comes to frames, reality as an entity is always extracting your frame and placing it in the world. It's always taking
Yeah.
your frame and painting the world with it, which is why you can find evidence to believe anything that you want. This is
It's
why I don't
true.
believe in the term delusional anymore. I don't
No.
think the term delusional has any basis in true reality, because at the end of the day, people that over imagine negative shit are
Yeah.
just as delusional as people that over imagine positive shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
It is it's amazing when you really dive into this stuff that nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. Nobody does.
No,
We're
they
all
don't.
just trying to figure it out as we go.
Dude, I gotta fix this webcam. Like, why is it so blurry?
Because it's been listening to Puddle of Mud.
I don't know how to fix this. I think I just like go like this, right? And then
It should autofocus on you, I
it should
think.
autofocus, right? It's not. It looks like crap.
Hey, well, I can see your beautiful silhouette through it, man.
You can see the silhouette. Awesome.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
let's see. How do I see? I gotta fix this somehow, but it's pretty bad. It's not auto focusing.
yeah,
And you talked about something in there which was really, really good. Like life doesn't happen to you. Like, and I sent this to you yesterday because I thought it was really funny. People are always talking about, when life gives you lemons. No, dude, you created the lemons with your thinking, the process that you have, the
yeah,
actions that you took. Sometimes, okay, life, but if you can take full responsibility for everything that happens to you, even if you really genuinely believe that it's not your fault, but if you could take responsibility for it, it's liberating. And like, if you think about, the whole saying, life gives you lemons, this quote here, it's really funny. Lemons aren't naturally occurring. They are genetic hybrid of citrons and bitter oranges. So life doesn't give us lemons. We make them ourselves,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Us as the human
yeah.
experiencer, the ego is what creates all these situations.
Yeah, and then you either take those lemons and you turn them into something that completely just makes you go because they're so sour, or you turn them into
Yeah.
lemonade and something that makes a lot of people happy.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Dude, this webcam just decided to want to just be a little douche right now. We're
Something
just
about the
gonna
frame, bro.
something about the frame is off. It is way off. And for all the women that are listening on here, yes, I talk about a man needing to create a frame. Like women, you have frames too. Like you create your own frame too. So this is like general speak. I'm just talking to men specifically here because I can tell men as a whole have completely lost their strong independent frame, knowing what to do, like this confidence, this air. So many men now are just completely distracted by so much stuff. I don't know whether it's from the industrial complex, right, where they're not home all day long and they're constantly slaving away doing something that they don't love. They don't have the results they want. I can tell you, like, you have to figure out a way as a man to control the frame, or you're going to be the one 15 years later when the kids are old enough to leave the house with divorce papers, given to you, right? Like, if
Yeah.
you don't, like, women, I believe it is, initiate majority of the divorces, and women by nature, are hypergamous in nature. Like, and that's nothing derogatory. It's just biological. They're always seeking the most dominant male to protect them and their family. And so if you're a man, right, and you have a frame like when you first start dating, right, and she falls in love with you for that, right? She likes how witty you are, how funny you are, how curious you are, how strong, how independent, like all these things. And then all of a sudden, when you start and you get married and you start creating a family, all of a sudden maybe you're not as curious anymore. All of a sudden, the way the relationship may be going, maybe you're always talking about, oh, she makes the rules, happy wife, happy life. Well, what about a happy husband? Like,
Yeah, Dustin said yesterday,
right?
instead of happy wife, happy life, happy house, or happy spouse, happy house.
Happy
I was like, I
spouse.
like that. I
Yeah,
like
both
that.
of you need to be
Yeah.
happy, right? And all those qualities, right, in the beginning that she fell in love with, she picked you. Like, the hypergamous nature of a woman picked you as that male, because she can see you as a protector, she can see you as a provider, she can see you as someone strong and independent. And the moment that, let's say, you got tamed, let's say you're no longer as strong anymore, let's say you're no longer as independent anymore, like those qualities are slowly slipping away, she by nature is going to be like, man, it's good right now, he's bringing in the money, but man, he's kind of a bitch. Like, he, you know what I mean? Like, that
Yeah.
happens to so many people, and I've witnessed growing up several divorces with my
Yep.
mom, right? I
Yep.
think she's on marriage, going on marriage number 4 or something like that. And every single time, like, I've watched, that man in that situation kind of change, right? And I noticed it in myself when I was like in relationship, and I noticed all of a sudden I started not doing the things in the beginning that she fell in love with that made me that strong, independent, untamable. Like, this is me. I'm going for it. I'm attacking my dreams, and it's almost like that domestication got me to a place of, and I'm not saying for men you have to go out there and be with all these women. That's not what I'm saying. So women on this, don't think that I'm telling you that. But what I'm saying is, for a man, you have to be able to keep that frame and continue, like you said, having your why, having that vision, going for it. And, like, the family goes into your frame. And the moment you lose
Yeah.
that down the road, you're eventually going to get papers if you don't figure out how to get your frame back.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is especially important um, for parents, new parents, right? Because
Yeah.
when you have kids, it changes everything, you
Yeah, it
know.
does.
And most people, because they have to, get up multiple times a night, and everywhere you go or anything you do, you have to bring diapers and milk and this and that and the other.
Yeah.
It's really easy to lose your frame. And
Yeah.
this is why, if you're listening to this, this is literally a divine opportunity for you to give yourself grace and refresh yourself, right? Like, if you're listening and you know you've lost your frame, you have an opportunity right now. You're being prompted to give yourself an opportunity to get back to the frame that you really want to be in, right? Not
Yeah.
the one that you've settled for, not the one that you've allowed, because that's the thing too. What I notice with men, especially emotional, deeply sensitive men, I'm one. I know you're one. Let's be real. Like, it gets
Yeah.
really, the frame can get lost unintentionally in wanting to be the best person you can for your wife, because
Yes.
sometimes things get a little misguided, miscentered, and you lose focus on the dreams because you are so focused on making sure that, look, dude, like, when she's on her cycle, I'm trying to comfort her, make sure she's good. And if there is an argument, like, look, let's try and just be calm about it. Let's have space for all the emotions and let's move. But it's like, a lot of times, all of these things, because women are in no way simple creatures, and that's not derogatory either. It's amazing. And
Yeah.
I think being a man that doesn't lose your frame, doesn't lose your why, and is simultaneously able to take care of your family, whether you're the sole provider, whether you both, whatever, that is the most powerful place you can be. And I think a lot of people get afraid, especially men that have been in relationships for a while. I get here myself. They're afraid of of rediscovering that frame, because oftentimes that frame came without the boundaries of the relationship or the parameters of the relationship, right? The reason she fell in love with you existed outside of the parameters of your relationship. And that's a really interesting thing, because as a man, you have to be able to still maintain that limitless sort of surge of, whether it's ambition, whatever word we want to use there, and still become the person that can wholly, right, WHOLLY, love your wife, admit when you make mistakes, be able to have humility, right, be able to apologize when you do something out of pocket, and still be that fearless leader, right? I think this is ridiculously important.
And everything you said there, it's like allowing for the space to happen, but not losing yourself in the process.
Yeah.
And it goes back to this that attachment, right? And if someone said something so profound, and I got to thinking about it and started asking myself a ton of questions on it. And this is like when the most liberating thing happened for me. And this is one of the reasons why I believe our agency is growing so fast, like shattering records, because we've been doing this inner work. There's no attachment here. We're coming at it from a completely different space, right? And that why is so big. And what's cool is the why has nothing to do with us
Yeah.
at all, right?
Yeah.
I know I can speak for myself on it. It has nothing to do with me. I want to break as many people free from this matrix as we possibly can before we leave this earth. And I know you can't break free from the matrix hanging on to a job. And you can't break free from the matrix if you're living in someone else's frame. And when you have a job, you are in someone else's frame. And eventually, maybe that's part of why so many men's frames get shattered, because they start to realize, this is all I know. I have a job. I have to do what I'm told all day long. I can't really go for what I want. And eventually, I believe over time that frame shatters, because they no longer have that big picture of what they want and that independence anymore. And it just eventually slowly degrades, right? Like if you're told where to be, what to do, how to act, for a year, that'll change you. Do that for a decade, you're not even going to be the same person that you once were. And so in the household, if you're constantly told what to do, where to be always, and you never say no, because no is a complete sentence, and no is the least used word in the dictionary. People hardly ever are able to say no. They beat around the bush. And so if you're unable to say no and go, no, this is what we're doing, right? Over time, the household is going to beat you down into somebody that you are, right? Like, how do you train a dog? What happened with Pavlov, right? The dog would start salivating, get food, get buzzed. Dog would start salivating, get food, right? Get buzzed. And over time, that dog would be like, I don't want to eat. Like, I'm good. You do that long enough in a household, or allow that to happen to you long enough in a household, sure, you are going to turn into a beta male. And eventually, by doing that, your missus is going to be like, this is not the man I married. Shame on this guy. I need to go find a better provider and a protector. That's what happened. You got conditioned to it unconsciously without holding your frame. Maybe it's because you let go of your frame, right? And you had to get bossed around in the household. But then at the same time, when you're doing it at a job, you're getting bossed around all the time in the job. You're getting told what to do, how to be, when to go. Like, I want to go home early. I want to go see my kids. No, you can't. And so over time, that's just going to beat you into submission. And then I believe that's one of the biggest reasons why we have so many submissive men. They just don't know how to say no, hold that frame, and they're stuck in these jobs that they don't want. They're not independent anymore. And now they're relying on other people, and their frame's no longer there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I want to take some time for a second and unpack, because we're using words that are thrown around a lot by very pretentious communities like beta and alpha. I want to take some time to acknowledge here that when we're talking about alpha and beta, there's no personal condescension or
None.
label of identity being created. we're just talking about the fact that when you are in a beta place, you're not creating, you are not
Yes.
building, you are responding, you are reacting, you are in an unhealthy way, most likely receiving, right? And when you're in that alpha place, you can receive healthily, but you've established your boundaries. You know your worth. You know who you are. You're not fucking around with people. You're not allowing, like you said earlier, you're not allowing your peace to be taken by people that you know aren't going to take it seriously. You know, you're very conscientious of yourself, your environment, your circle, you know, what you've got going on in your life. And maybe you are in a job, but you're actively doing something that's putting you in a place where you are in, I'm not going to use the word control here, but you are in a dominant point of creation in your life rather than just going through the motions, you know, and waking up each day knowing, you know, we talk about this on some of our calls, like knowing that there's something deep inside of you that you get lit up about that you refuse to allow to bring to the surface
Yeah.
because you're too afraid of what's going to happen. And I get it. I get what it's like to keep a situation going because I'm afraid of what's going to happen when it goes away. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've been there too. Like we've
Been
all
there.
been there. And this is where the courage, this is to me, the courage of a man, right? That is the courage of a man to be able to recognize, a, first off, when you're in a situation, because I think it goes both ways. I think that with the abundance of trauma in the last 70 years across the board, both in family settings and political settings,
Yeah.
it can be really easy for, because what I notice is this fake spirituality, this fake personal development that on the other side of this says, I'm going to cut off everything and I'm going to, but if you don't fucking meet these standards, blah, blah, all these different things. And I think a lot of the times that can be actually fear masquerading as power because
Correct.
people are afraid, right? We're afraid to have things happen because we're afraid we're not going to handle them. Therefore, we do our best to push them away. Like this, there's no real black and white definition for being a human, being a man, or being a woman. It's very complex. It has multiple levels. But the reality is, whether you're a man or you're a woman, if you're not choosing your frame, you are making yourself liable to have somebody else choose it for you.
100%. I appreciate that clarification. And when you talk there about this, for me, I've tried to simplify, my role here as a man and our role here as humans. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, what is the point of being a human? And when you really break that down, it's expansion. Simply put, it's expansion. Like expand yourself, expand your seed, if you will, expand your genetics, expand the human race, expand your creativity, just constantly expanding, right? And when you think about that and the connection to the universe, right, the universe, they find, is always expanding, it's never stopping. So it's almost like everything in the world is either expanding or it's dying.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, for everyone here that's listening, you're either growing or you're dying. In the universe, there is nothing stagnant. There's nothing stagnant. It's either growing or it's dying. And the moment that you feel stagnant, you're not stagnant, you're going backwards. And you're essentially dying, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, your work, everything, physically. You have to always be doing the best that you can to expand, keeping yourself healthy, keeping your mind healthy, building something, creating something. And that goes back to what Mike said about, that whole alphaness. It is expansion, it is
Yeah.
creation, it is doing what you're here, what you're meant to be here for. And that's expanding something using your creative gift that was instilled within you. And it's like, it's almost like the trauma, right, that we experienced in our life was placed there on purpose to develop you into the person, right? And it's not to develop you, like, not the traumas to develop you. It's for you to learn from and overcome that trauma to find you, because you are always in there, that person that is creative, that person that is ready to go, all of it. The moment that you can shed all of those layers of trauma and stop identifying with it, going, oh, I act this way because of this. No, your fucking trauma is not an excuse for you to treat people like shit and have emotional meltdowns
Yeah.
in life, and just it's not your excuse to. It is your opportunity to go, wait a minute, I'm having a trigger moment right now. Why? Right? Usually, as you said, fear, right, is the precursor. Like if you're angry or if you're having anxiety, I find that one of the biggest reasons why people don't heal emotionally is because they fail to recognize the actual emotion. Like anger and anxiety are feelings. Well,
Yeah.
what is the underlying emotion that's actually driving the anger? What is driving the anxiety? It's always fear. It is always fear. And if you can sit in that fear and recognize, wait a minute, I'm angry right now. Wait a minute. Like, let's say you're arguing with your wife and you guys are going at it. You can pause for a moment. So having awareness of yourself in that moment and is critical. So you can pause and go, wait a minute, we're in a huge fight right now. I'm pissed. Okay, what am I pissed about? Okay, this. Okay, well, what am I afraid of right now? Oh shit, I'm afraid if I XYZ, I'm going to lose XYZ. Okay, now you can start the train of questions to yourself. Well, if I lost that, is it that big of a deal? Can I let go of that? Can I detach from that? And as you start to go down that line of fear, that is when you can get to a place of, whoa, this was stupid,
Yeah.
and come at it from a completely different place.
Yeah. That's it, man. The frame is everything. The frame is everything.
It is.
And how you frame one thing is oftentimes how you frame everything.
It is,
You
right?
know?
Oh
So
my gosh. Yeah. How you frame one thing, you frame everything. There's a book I read, Pitch Anything. It talks about
I
the
love
frames.
that fucking book.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, Oren Clough is a beast.
He is. Now that I bring that up, I think I should reread that book. I love that book.
Yeah. Dude, that book is literally I had never pitched anything before in my life, and I started SkyTech with Pat, and I was literally pitching $40 million mining products and projects in like 2 weeks after reading that book. And I mean, that book was like the most insane thing I had ever read, and it because
Yeah.
it was just so clear. But it was about so much of it was about your frame. So much of it was
Yes.
how you come to the table. And I wanted to backtrack for a second because the interesting thing about anxiety is that feeling that you get in your gut when you're anxious
Yeah.
is the same exact feeling you get when you're giddy and excited. The only difference is how you're interpreting the situation. Like
Yes.
I've noticed this, especially around the test, because I've gotten really anxious. But then when I go to the other side of that and I'm like, oh, it's good, like it's good. I don't know that it's good, but that's how I'm choosing to interpret it. And it's still that same little bubbly shit in your gut, but
Yeah.
it's no longer through the lens of impending doom. It's through the lens of impending goodness.
Yes.
You
Hmm.
know, like we've been told, and I think we're told this so that we can be powerless, that we don't have a choice. Like I was told growing up, I was diagnosed with PTSD at 4 years old. 4 years old.
Wow.
Bipolar, manic bipolar, depression, OCD, ADD, ADHD, RAD, ODD. I could name multiple DDs beyond that. And, I was on probably 45 different medications between the age of 4 and 18. And for so long, my mom, love her to death, or different doctors, psychologists say, oh, you go off your medication for 3 days, you're going to kill somebody. And I'm just like, you know what I mean? That's kind of, but eventually that became a belief, right? And then that belief in periods when I did go off my medication, absolute insanity, right? Crazy
Yeah.
fights, crazy events. Like I attempted suicide. Ironically, a period of not taking my meds, I tried to use my meds to kill myself. And it's just, it's not a funny thing, but it is a funny thing because the frame is everything. And, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I don't get angry and I don't freak out because I do, right? But the point is that I'm choosing my frame. I'm choosing my frame as much as I can.
Yeah.
And with the healing, right? Because that's a big thing. The biggest reason we have a hard time choosing our frame is because our trauma has more energy in our nervous system than our ability to choose.
Yes.
Because that's been our default response for God knows how long. And so, as you and I talk about a lot, it is the threshold of having that conversation with your inner child and de-escalating the situation inside of yourself that gets you to the place where you can choose a different frame. But until you de-escalate that event inside of your nervous system, even an attempt to choose a new frame is going to feel fake. It's going to feel pretentious. It's going to feel inauthentic. And you're most likely going to convolute the situation even more. Because,
Absolutely. What,
you know,
you got more? Keep going.
no.
Well, I was going to go off of that, and for everyone doing the work, it's going to take a moment of you just doing it anyways. Like I was in a text thread earlier today, with someone who, it's interesting, and uh, whenever there's a conflict, right after the Marine Corps, I would take on any conflict. I would head on all of it. But then it got to the point where if there was like, and this was conditioning, right? Anytime it was like an authority figure, um, I would get super anxious and nervous, and I wouldn't say what I needed to say, or I'd be worried about what it is that I said. And then I
Yeah.
would let someone that felt like an authority figure walk all over me. And for everyone here that's trying to break free of that suffers from the same thing, the way you unbreak it is by doing it and saying it anyways and see where it goes. Like, earlier today, like the old me, as I got that text message, would be like, oh, okay, that's fine. Right. Go, we'll do that. But now I'm like, I sent a text back and I got that nervous feeling. It was like, no, I'm not doing that. Talk to you later. And I
Yeah.
still felt the nervousness, but then I was like, what am I nervous about? Like it
Yeah.
allowed me to explore it right away, but I voiced what I felt inside was necessary, even though the old me was trying to come out and cave in.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that work, you must be willing to voice that inner voice. Let it come out no matter what the repercussions are, because it seems like the fad right now is everyone wants to reach a place of enlightenment. Like everyone in the spiritual world, they're all like enlightened, like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, all enlightenment is the highest vibrational frequency for a human being. Like if you study Dr. David Hawkins, he talks about how when you live, like it's an upside down, triangle, where the lowest vibrational energy is apathy, and then it goes shame, it goes guilt, and I think right below courage. Courage is like the neutrality point, where it's like vibrates at level 200. So you got fear, guilt, shame, anger, all those things vibrate underneath, and it vibrates low, and it's at a stage where it repels other than attracts. And so, and then on the upper echelon, you have courage is like that breaking point. When you reach courage is when you start to break through at a higher frequency. Then you got love, joy, bliss, enlightenment. Well, for my thing here, for everyone that's listening, doing the inner work and refinding yourself, your true authentic self, not your program self. Like if you're running around, this is the way I am. Like, no, it's not the way you are. It's you haven't done the work to self reflect, to find who you really are. It's a program that you're running. But the moment that you can shed off all these programs and find your true authentic self and live in that space, you will vibrate at the highest frequency close to enlightenment. They took people and they put them in like these like little what are they, like blackout tubes or something, where there's no EMF, there's no radiation, there's no contact in the external world. They're just in like these little huts. And what they found that over time, they shed everything and they started living in their true and authentic self, and everyone's vibrational frequency shot through the roof.
Yeah.
So the
Makes
moral of the
sense.
story here is shed it all, live your authentic self, find your inner voice, and
Choose your
even if
frame.
your frame. And like again, this goes back to the damn frame. Like
Yeah.
speak it. Let your inner voice be heard no matter what.
Yeah. Amen.
Amen.
That's a great way to full circle it and wrap it up.
Yeah.
Find your frame, find your voice, because if you don't, you're going to be subjected to somebody else's frame and somebody else's voice.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, man. So we're on your guys' bench. If you want to receive more of this kind of stuff, go ahead and find us on Instagram at Reality Hacker Nick, at Reality Hacker Co. shoot us a message. Come hang out. You know, if you are a man or you're a woman and you're dealing with struggling to put your frame together, man, you know, come get an unconditional reflection on how you can optimize yourself, man, because that's what this is all about, helping you break free from yourself. So thanks, Nick, for the conversation. It's
Thank
amazing.
you, Mike, as always.